because no amount of wealth brings back your health. I always say health is the crown on the head of the well that only the sick can see. In other words, you don't appreciate the gift and the privilege that good health really is until you haven't got it anymore.
Welcome to another edition of Expedition Business, where we talk to inspiring South African entrepreneurs about the highs and lows of their business journey and how on earth they manage to keep the flame of business adventure burning. Of course, facing your day with a smile is sometimes the toughest thing you have to do. My name is Christel Roslev-Venter, your host and the one privileged enough to be talking to Sue Fullergood. But before I introduce Sue to you, I would like to remind you to subscribe, like, comment and share this podcast with as many of your friends and family as possible. Without your help, we cannot continue to share the amazing stories of our South African entrepreneurs. But back to why we are here today. Sue is known as a body whisperer. She has been working as a specialist physiotherapist for the past 34 years. She's a registered life coach and facilitator of wellbeing. Her postgraduate training in mindfulness, mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral therapy, somatic experiencing, coaching, pain, sexual function, yoga, Pilates and movement science underpins her commitment of lifetime studies. She started and runs Body Brilliance and the Energy-Incubator. Both these companies help people to truly thrive, both on the inside and on the outside. Adventure and sport has been at the heart of Sue's life. She has climbed mountains in distant lands and run across islands, traveled wildly and met people from all around the world. In between all of us, Sue is a committed mum, speaker, published author, teacher, and a healer. Her talks inspire and her work shows people how they can truly have it all. Sue, welcome to Expedition Business.
Thank you, and I couldn't be more excited to be here with you, Christel. Thank you for the invitation.
It is absolutely our pleasure. For those of you that don't know, I've met Sue at the Professional Speakers Association as a highly accomplished speaker. But what fascinates me is the adventures that you have had in your life. And even after almost falling yourself to death at Cathedral Peak, you managed to pick yourself up and continue to help people. How on earth do you manage to get the energy to continue with all your work?
You know, it's a difficult question to answer, really, because to me, it's not even a question. It's just, I'm just cellularly built that way, I would say. I love to engage with people. I find it the biggest and most enormous privilege in the world for people to share their stories with me and tell me what they're struggling with. And I just absolutely love to sit and brainstorm with them how best they can feel better. And I'm lucky enough to have a huge big toolbox full of different tools, as you've just said, largely because I'm an addicted student. And so I've got all these tools, and so it's really part of my adventure for being alive, to be able to pull out whichever of the tools that I think are best going to help a person and engage with them in the journey of trying to see how we can apply the tools to help them. And it really is a privilege for me because people do share their very most intimate and private things with me in my treatment room or on Zoom, because I work with people all over the world. In facilitation rooms as well, because I work with corporate clients and with companies and often with teams. And so people do share their really challenging and difficult stuff. And then together as fellow human beings, we can see how best to help them feel better and do better. So, yeah, falling down a mountain was a massive ordeal for me. Um, it was enormously challenging on a physical level because I broke so many of the bones in my body and shattered most of my left leg, and damaged the nerves and I damaged quite a lot of my organs at the same time. So it was a very long and difficult and arduous healing journey myself. But that makes me better at what I do, I think, because I understand more intimately what people are going through. And most importantly, I had an enormously difficult psychological journey back from a really very near death experience, and trying to sort of find my way through that post traumatic stress and the dissociation and own defense mechanisms that came up within my psyche to try and help me. And so, um, yeah, I suppose I've just been healing myself alongside everybody else I've been lucky enough to work with. It's just given me more insight, it's given me more passion for what I do, and it's given me more energy to go forward and share all that I've been lucky enough to learn. And I would honestly say lucky, even though it doesn't sound lucky to fall down a mountain. And there were many, many months when it didn't feel lucky. But right now, 2.5 years down the line, I do feel it was lucky because it sort of shattered the framework of everything I knew about myself and everything I thought about myself, and gave me a completely fresh perspective, a completely new way of understanding myself and my own defense mechanisms and my own way of staying safe in the world. Um, so, I'm grateful, very, very grateful for that insight, and love to share it.
I can imagine. But I think something that a lot of people looking from the outside might think you've got it all and you don't have issues and you just go with the flow and do whatever you have to do. And I suppose it's nice for everyone to find out, oh, she's also human. She also have her down moments.
Oh, I'm very human, and proudly so. I don't want to be a piece of rock. I really want to be a feeling, struggling, vulnerable human being like everybody else. And I really say it with the greatest form of truth that we're all in this business of struggling in the sea of life and being human together. And I'm no better than anybody else. I'm struggling alongside everybody else. I just feel like I've gained some insight over the many, many years of my life and learning, and I can share those. So yes, of course, I've struggled, and quite a lot of the struggle actually was to really get inside and feel the pain, because I'm extremely adept at being able to block pain. I'm extreme, as a for many, many years I've done long distance running, and many, many ultra endurance events, and those teach you very, very well how to completely switch off to pain. As you will know, as a fellow trail runner, it's something you become quite good at, and I had to really unravel that in order to find what was really going on for me, because it was very easy for me to just literally not engage with my own journey at all, just sort of let it happen in the side.
I like how you mentioned for me as a fellow trail runner, but I cannot imagine that you would take pain pills on a very simple race like the Otter.
I think you got to do what you got to do, as you said, to enjoy it. And I do believe that this is the biggest pharmacology store in the world, your good old brain, and that we are capable of producing all the painkillers that we need. But sometimes there's a delay, and sometimes a little bit of chemical help is very, very useful. So, yes, I do what I have to do, and I always have.
Listen, but speaking of, you had so many adventures, and I just tried to go through your book, The Sweet Spot, which is absolutely brilliant. And I loved your story about your trans-alpine run adventures and everything that you went through. But the whole process of how things didn't work out the way you have planned it for so many years, and after that you've gone through the separation and you had the bacterial meningitis. I just sort of, it feels like your stories just keep on coming and coming and coming. And I must admit that that is as far as I got in your book. So I can imagine there's a zillion more stories. Where do you get time to share all these stories?
Well, thank you for reading my book, and I'm so happy that you've enjoyed it. I absolutely love to write. It's just something I absolutely love to do. I didn't go about writing my book in quite the right way, I must say, because somebody said to me, if you want to write a book, which I did, then just start writing. And so I did. And suddenly one day, I actually was sitting at a professional speakers gala dinner at the convention. And somebody said to me, you know, the best books are about 100,000 words, I think she said, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I went home and had a look at, you know, all these bits I'd been writing, and it was about 350,000 words. I wrote the end, and then I sat for about 3 years trying to piece it all together and make some sort of a sense of all that I'd written. So I don't advocate for that if anybody wants to write a book, because that is a very time-consuming way to do it. It's much better to have a bit of a plan and write according to your plan. But yeah, sharing my stories is something I really love to do because I think we can all learn from each other. And I've learned so much from other people's stories. I think we learn from stories. And so sharing my stories has been something that has, yeah, been very easy for me to do. And really, it does come from a place of let's all learn together. Let's all try and get this thing right, this thing called living life right together.
Mm-hmm.
So you tell me your story, I'll tell you mine, and hopefully we'll all do better as we go along.
I like
Yeah.
the notion of let's get life together, and yeah, but it's not that easy.
No. No, it is not that easy. You know, that good old saying, which I often hear myself saying, life is not a bed of roses, is so absolutely true. And I think maybe that's been one of my, if you don't mind me sounding so arrogant, superpowers, if you like,
Uh-huh.
is that I very early on in my life came absolutely to terms with that. Life's not a bed of roses. And I'm not going to go into the gory details, but I did have a trying and difficult and traumatic, a trauma-filled childhood. And so I learned that very early. And I also learned that we're tougher than we think.
Mm.
And the bottom of the barrel is so much further away from wherever we are than we think it is. There's just so much more tenacity and staying power than we think we've got. And so, yeah, I think to have been able to engage with life really with curiosity and a sense of adventure has
Mm-hmm.
been very helpful for me. Just, okay, so what's next? Oh, this feels terrible and it's jolly horrible and I hate every minute of it. And that's okay because it will pass. It's transient. Everything in life is. And downhills will become uphills and uphills will become downhills. So enjoy this for whatever it has to offer.
Mm.
Suck it dry for everything it can teach you and everything it can show you about yourself. So yeah, life is blooming hard for all of us. Nobody is spared their challenges in life, and thank God because that's how we evolve.
Mm.
And I certainly don't want to go through life without evolution. I think it's an inherent, innate drive within us to evolve and grow. And so bring it on. If this is going to help me grow, then bring it on. I'll take it. But yeah, it isn't easy. And I think we need one another to help us get through those hard times, because I certainly couldn't have done it on my own without the amazing people that have supported me in my journey and in my life, friends, colleagues, mentors, and spiritual teachers and family. And I don't advocate for anybody trying to do this challenging and difficult thing called life alone.
And I suppose even the people that's not the friends anymore, that they're part of your story and help to form you, whoever you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, some people are in your life for forever, and some people are in your life for a season, but everybody is a valuable addition to your story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we all need exciting stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now we say, and I really, really mean this, if you got to the end of your life and you were looking back over your life, and it was depicted on a canvas with paints, you wouldn't want your life to have only pink and purple on it.
Mm.
You would really, really want to have black and green and yellow and orange and grey and brown and all the colours. And I certainly want to have all the colours on my canvas. So bring it on. If it's gonna hurt, if it's gonna be tough, I'll take it. You know, I'm just saying, you know, if you think about doing a trail run, like I know you've just done the Otter Trail, the whole Otter Trail in one day. It's blooming hard. And why did you want to do it? Because it was challenging, I think. Well, certainly that's why I wanted to do it. It's challenging, it's hard, it helps you become more resilient and tough and find out things about yourself. So, you know, any challenge in life is just the same.
Can you imagine a life without challenges? How boring would that be?
Exactly right. I know. And sometimes, you know, we do look, well, I certainly, especially over the last couple of years, because it's been a really, really difficult couple of years in terms of not only my own recovery, but my partner had cancer, my sister lost her life, I had a car accident. It just felt like the waves were just crashing and crashing, and it came up for air and thought, jeepers, cut me some slack. And then on top of that, my son got a very, very severe autoimmune disease and nearly lost his life. And I was just absolutely on my knees and begging for mercy from life. But you know what? Sometimes it's just stormy waters. But I'm happy to say, touch wood, that the calm waters have returned, and life has calmed back down to a normal pace, and the sun's come back out again. So I think that is helpful to remember.
The sun always comes up.
And the sun will come back out, and the sea will calm back down again, and you'll be okay. So,
But speaking of that, you've recently moved house, you've taken keys to a new practice, and this all while your mum's health is deteriorating. And in between all of this, you doing major corporate engagements. Yeah, I just keep on thinking, how the hell do you manage to do all of this?
yeah, and my dad's health is deteriorating too.
Oh no.
It's a sandwich generation thing, looking after children and parents. But how do I do it? Well, I'll tell you that there are some things that I am not negotiable on in terms of self-care. And I think the first most important thing is you can't outsource self-care. It is absolutely your responsibility. And this is something I take very, very seriously. So every day, at least, not every day, at least 5 days out of 7, I exercise. And if I don't feel energized and I don't have a lot of wumma for it, or I'm injured and trying to recover from an injury, I move what part of my body I can in what way feels good for me that day. So I always try and get my heart rate up. I try and push a bead or two of sweat, because I think that helps to dump adrenaline. And it helps to pump serotonin into my system, and it helps to bring my cortisol levels down. So that's a non-negotiable. I'm very, very fussy about what I eat. I know some people say I'm a bit anal about it, and I probably am, but I really don't want to eat sugar. I don't like how it makes my body feel, and I want to have a healthy body because I want to have a healthy mind and a healthy body, and I'm absolutely certain that if I take care of what I put in, I'm going to be blessed with what comes out, and it's worked for me so far. So I am vegetarian, and I'm very fussy about not eating bucket loads of carbohydrates as a vegetarian because I don't think that's good for your body. So I eat mostly God-made food, and I never eat if I'm not hungry, and I always eat if I am hungry. I think that's absolutely essential to respond to your body and to try and tune into your body as much as you can. I drink gallons and gallons of water, not more than my body needs, but if I'm thirsty, I drink water. Yes, I do have a vice. I do love coffee, but I don't like caffeine, so I only drink decaffeinated coffee, which I know is not very good for me, but I love coffee. And I love sparkly water, so I'm not picture perfect, but I do have those things. And what else is essential? I get enough sleep as best I can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty fanatical about trying to get to bed as early as I can. I'm not good at sleeping in the morning. I'm an early riser. So I try and go to bed at a reasonable hour. And I try and make time, plenty of time, for my friends and family. Everybody in my life, everybody complains that I'm too busy, and that they don't get enough time with me. So I am guilty of that, and I am criticized strongly for that. But my recipe for that is I try and make sure I have quality time. So if I'm spending time with somebody, I don't look at my phone. I try and be completely present. And that brings me joy, by the way, as well as bringing fulfillment in the social engagement. So I try to give every aspect of my life quality, not quantity. What else? Those are really important things. Oh, and then regards my mental health, I practice mindfulness, and I practice somatic experiencing. So I'm constantly tuning into and tracking my own somatic experience. So I'm quite fanatical, might be a bit strong, but of making time to connect with what's going on for me, and how I am inside. Because and that's been a real essential life practice for me, because I can easily live totally outside of my own body and dissociate. So I try and reassociate on purpose on a regular basis.
Wow, that sounds like a mouthful. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on the somatic experiences? What is it all about?
Okay, so interoception is our sixth sense. We've got our five senses that connect us to the outside world and bring feedback and information to our brains from the outside world. And then we have interoception, which is our sixth sense, which is all about what's going on the inside. And with somatic experiencing, the aim of the game is to try and have, well, ideal would be 50% of your information coming from the inside and 50% coming from the outside. But unfortunately, the way the world is operating with constant stimulus and information coming from the outside, it's tempting to dull down and dumb down the information from the inside. So somatic experiencing reverses that. So on purpose, you connect to what's happening with your body on the inside. So you might, for example, well, I did it just before this podcast. I connected very strongly to the sensation of having my feet on the ground, and I connected to any kind of apprehension or anxiety that might be sitting in my gut, or chest or throat. And all you do with somatic experiencing is not to fade it or fix it, because using the mindfulness principle of it's okay the way it is. It doesn't have to be different to how it is, but you want to be aware of and pay attention to what's really there. So I tune into what's there and just give it credence, give it compassion, give it non-judgment, give it curiosity, and just spend time with it, acknowledging it. The aim with somatic experiencing, because it actually is designed to treat trauma, and it's Peter Levine's work.
Okay.
And so the idea is not to overwhelm your system. So if, for example, you're connecting to a knot in your stomach or anxiety or apprehension or anything else that might be sitting there, you have something else that is an anchor, if you like, outside of that internal system. For example, I've got my whole office is full of plants. I love nature. And I've got some beautiful plants, one particular orchid, which I'm looking at right now. And just to look at that orchid calms my system. So if I find that tuning into my internal space is arousing my nervous system, then I can look outside, take a look at this very beautiful orchid, which is burst into flower, and just calms my system down again, and then I can bring myself back. So the idea is that you move in and out of the experiences inside if they are too arousing and too distressing.
Okay. And this is what you teach, one of the many things that you teach your clients.
Yes, I teach my clients, and I also teach this to corporates in my workshops, and in my talks, even sometimes just give a little nugget of just, for example, that one I spoke of just experiencing your feet on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievably grounding, and it's not about just sort of, yes, okay, I've got my feet on the ground, but actually tuning into what does it feel like on the inside of your body to have your feet on the ground. That gets you into your body, embodies you in the present, and that's an incredibly calming and useful thing to do. Often your feet are really calm while your internal space might be filled with anxiety or tension or anger or frustration or whatever else might be going on for you. And so that, just by tuning into your feet, you can bring a sense of calm into yourself and your body.
Well, I can tell you my shoes are now off and my feet are on the ground, and I'm feeling much better already.
Oh, yeah, you see, it
But
works.
Sue, something else that I want to ask you. Obviously, all of what you are doing is part of essentially your business, and you've got a couple of businesses, because somebody has to pay for the house and the practice and everything else that you are doing. When it comes to business, what makes you feel on top of the world?
Well, I'm going to tell you quite honestly, I feel on top of the world when people are coming coming in freely. The phone is ringing and my diary is full, and people are getting better. And then I always say to them, I want you better, and I want you to send your friends, not that you should come back again. So yeah, when business is booming, I feel great. When opportunities are coming my way, and also, if I'm doing talks or workshops for corporates, when they make a difference, when I can get messages from people saying, wow, thank you, that helped, then I feel on top of the world. So there's a big fat feedback loop, if you like, coming in for me, of which, by the way, is very energizing, of I'm giving a lot out, but I'm getting so much back. And that feedback loop, I think, helps me feel on top of the world. So I find it very difficult if, for whatever reason, things go slow. And I really can tell you that the world can read me. I don't know how, but it is like that. You can even ask my PA. If my diary is quiet, she'll phone me up and say, what the hell's going on with you, full of good? Because it always is like that. If I'm having a hard time inside and I'm not in a, positive, uplifted space, then somehow people cancel their appointments, gigs get cancelled, and my diary empties out. And I find that quite difficult to deal with. I do. But luckily it doesn't happen too often.
But it does give you a breathing space.
It does. But I find it difficult, I must be very frank there, to take the breathing space. I do often feel like, oh, what have I done wrong now? Maybe I, I'm not doing things right, or maybe I've lost the plot or something like that. So, I do use the feedback loop a lot to keep me upbeat. Yeah.
Something that is quite interesting to me, for a very, very long time in your career, you had 2 children in the house that you had to deal with on top of everything else. How did you get through those times? And what advice would you be able to give people that want to go into the same business with small children?
It's difficult. That's the first thing. It is really, really difficult. And I must say, the first piece of advice would be prioritize your children. Definitely. Even though, in my instance, for the most part, although they did have a dad who helped pay the bills, in my home, and, with my share of the expenses, it was on me. So, even though you've got to pay the bills, their emotional and spiritual and physical needs come first. So that was absolutely without a doubt. And then I think the other thing that really helped me was structure and routine. I really, really kept a very tight routine. Getting up, I got up before they did to go and do my exercise, and then I was ready and available to them, so I could help them get ready for school and take them to school every day. And then while they were at school, I worked and worked and worked and worked, and then I fetched them every day. So I gave them the critical times that I thought were important for them. And then I took time for myself as well to do the work I needed to do. I probably neglected some other relationships in my life, but I had to work with my priority list, and the structure was really important. And one thing I ran in my head all the time is "Morgen is nog 'n dag." If you can do it today, it doesn't matter. You can do it tomorrow. So, not with children's needs; they need to be attended today, but anything else can wait till tomorrow. So I don't know if that answers the question.
I think definitely, but I must say, while you're talking about it, it brings back so many memories of me trying to run a business with small kids and trying to cover all the bases. But now they are pretty much out of the house, almost, and you've got new space to work in.
Yes, it's a very different world now. My son is already totally off my payroll, and my daughter, he's in his second year of work. Well, first year of work, but second year out of university. His first year he went traveling. And my daughter is moments away from finishing her degree, which will free her to go and do some traveling and then eventually get a job of her own. So, there's a lot more time and space. But now I've got my parents. So that's a new challenge. A lot more time to just enjoy life, I think. And I have to be careful not to work in all the spare minutes that life presents. That is something that I have to guard against.
But speaking of business, any new challenges that you have set your sights on for your business itself, not for you on a personal level?
I'm in a bit of a pivot space right now because I employed a new physio to work with me, and he's decided to leave because he wants to go and travel. He's a very young person, and that's kind of thrown a spanner in the works for me because I'm really fed up with employing physios to come and work with me and free me up a little bit. And then they learn everything they can and then leave. So, I think I'm at a pivot place in my career right now as to exactly where do I want to spend the bulk of my time. At the moment, I spend probably a third of my time doing coaching, a third of my time doing physio, and a third of my time doing corporate work. And I think I probably would like to globalize, or I definitely would like to globalize more my business and do more traveling now that I can, because my children are big. Travel and speak, and travel and work. And I would like to be a little bit more free to leave my treatment room, so do more online work and a little bit less face-to-face work. And I think I would like to do more one-to-many work, although I do love the depth that you can get to when you work one-on-one with somebody. So I don't want to give that up altogether. And I would love to write another book, by the way.
Okay. And what would the new book be about?
I think it's going to be about being able to say no. And being able to say no enough times so you can eventually say yes. That's really what I want to explore. And so it's going to unpack a lot of defense mechanisms. It's going to unpack a lot of, the different parts of yourself. And
It sort of brings me to a question that I was thinking of earlier. Do you believe that success is possible without sacrificing anything along the way?
And this is something that's very hard for me because I hate missing out, and I hate sacrificing anything because I really do want it all. But I think it's not that you have to sacrifice. I think you have to prioritize. And as you can tell by listening to my story, prioritizing hasn't been a strong suit of mine. I do love to do it all. But I think, my problem has been sometimes that I'm going too fast and I'm just too busy because there are just too many balls in the air. Especially because, I want to be a very high quality coach, and I want to be a high quality sexual counselor, and I want to be a high quality speaker, and. So, I think you've got to prioritize, which is something I'm hoping I'll learn before I die. One day, to be able to focus and let go of some things. I find subtraction really difficult, and that's why I want to explore it in my book. What do you need to say no to in order to be able to say yes to some things? So is it sacrifice, or is it really choosing wisely? I think it's actually choosing wisely and prioritizing carefully.
It definitely sounds better than sacrificing.
But it also sounds less hard.
Less hard, definitely. But it sounds like you would also be a good candidate to join the I'm Not Butter group.
I'm not butter.
Spreading yourself too thinly.
Yes. I know I have been guilty of that my whole life. And I don't have many regrets in my life, thank God, but that is definitely one of them, is that, you don't want to spread yourself so thin because it takes the magic away. So I'm hoping in my next decade that that's something I can choose a bit better.
Okay.
And I don't think I choose very wisely about every minute of every day what I'm going to think about or do, but I don't think the big choices are that easy for me. I find that really inspiring to see how you can make better choices about the big things.
What would be, you've spoken about the next decade, what would be your next adventures that you want to take on in the next decade? I think you've climbed every conceivable mountain there is to climb and ran every island there is to run. What else is there for Sue Fuller Good?
I so haven't climbed every mountain or run across every island. Definitely not. There are millions more. But I would love to, I'm not as physically capable as I was before, but I'm lucky that I can still climb mountains. I don't know that a big mountain is on the horizon for me, because anyway, I love off the beaten track places. I love to go where no one else wants to go. That's kind of my happy place, because to go somewhere where there's multiple queues of other people isn't fun for me. So more travel. There are lots and lots and lots and lots of places I want to travel to. And travel always includes adventure for me. So there are lots of places in Ethiopia I want to visit and explore. There are lots of places in India I still want to explore. And I haven't done much exploring at all in South America, and I really would love to go to Antarctica.
To
So
do
yeah,
what?
those things, I just see it, experience it. I can only sort of imagine it, and I like to get a felt sense of it. So I'd really like to do that, to see somewhere that's so beautiful and so covered in ice, and so important to the planet. I think that really, I'd love to go and see. So I don't necessarily have to climb a mountain there. I'm quite happy to just go and climb a little hill and maybe do some cross country skiing, or as I say, it always includes the physical for me because I just love that. I love sport and I love activity. But yeah, it doesn't have to be brilliant. I would also like to really improve my tennis.
Okay.
Sounds like a strange thing to say. And I would also love to learn to speak French. I've always said that, and now I'm saying it out loud on a podcast. Oh my goodness. I really would love to be able to speak another language. I'm shocking in that I can scarcely speak Afrikaans. Well, I can get by with Afrikaans, but I don't sound at all good when I speak Afrikaans. And so I usually don't open my mouth if I have to speak it. So yeah, I would like to be able to speak another language and develop that side of my brain.
Okay, so French it is.
French is the one I've chosen so far because I think it's the prettiest language ever.
Mm, absolutely.
Lovely.
So, quick question, and you sort of answered it, but if you could be 20 years old again and you could change anything, what would that be?
That's a difficult one. I don't know. Sometimes I think I would have become a medical doctor instead of a physio. Although I think my life would have been so different if I had done that. And the thing that I love the most about physio is it's so problem solving. And apart from the fact that it's problem solving, you get so close to your patients. And that's what I really love, which I don't think doctors get quite that privilege, if you like. And when you touch someone, they open up and tell you stuff. So, yeah, maybe that. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe I would have written a book earlier. So I could have written more books because that was really a fun experience for me.
I can imagine. But just speaking of your patients, I can imagine that you deal with aches and pains every day when you deal with your clients, or your physio clients at least. It must be exhausting at the end of the day. Although you look like you can manage everything, but what would be the fun and exciting ways that you use to regroup, refocus, and rejuvenate and be ready for the next day?
Yeah, so I would like to say this. It does help to remember that although I have expertise in my hands and in my head that can help people, at the end of the day, the patients or the clients actually are innately able to heal themselves. And this is something I've learned along the way, and I'm really, really sure that it helps me not to get exhausted by it, in that I'm just the hose pipe. I'm just holding the space for them, for their body to heal itself, and maybe offering some ingredients. So, yes, sometimes people say, isn't it tiring to hear about people's troubles and aches and pains all the time? I don't know if it is, but it's certainly a lot less tiring if I know it's not for me to fix you. You are anyway fixing yourself because you were born for that, and your system is born to heal itself. And so I'm just holding the space. Yeah, that does help a lot with any kind of burnout or tiredness from work. And then yeah, I have a wonderful partner, life partner, who is a very, um, yeah, he's got an incredible mind, and he loves to have really in-depth conversations, which I find very fascinating and interesting. I love to read. I love music. And so I do the things that I find fun. I socialize a lot, and then I do feel, and if I've had a good night's sleep, I do feel rejuvenated by the next day. I think I get tired when I get overwhelmed by my to-do list, which does happen from time to time, or quite often. And so then I try and break it down into bite-sized chunks and just say, just do this thing today, and then just do this thing. And when I can try and do that, it's less overwhelming. But I would say that's much more tiring than engaging with people's aches and pains and troubles, to have too many things to try and do. Yeah. And the other thing that I do, and this is something I can definitely share that has made a big difference to me. I have an amazing team who I work with who love to do the things I hate to do.
And what would that be?
Like, for example, I'm really terrible at admin. And I have an amazing lady called Debbie. You've probably come across her, and she does all the admin. She organizes the things that I don't find interesting to organize because they're interesting for her, and she loves to make order out of chaos. So I love that. I love working with her, and I have another lady who does all my website and social media and that sort of thing. I hand it over because it doesn't do it for me. So I do the things that I find fun, and I let other people do the things that they find fun that I don't, as best I can.
Sounds like a very good strategy. But you mentioned earlier that you like to read. What books, except of course for your own sweet spot, would you recommend for people to read, and specifically for entrepreneurs?
Gosh, which books would I recommend? I've got literally thousands of them that I would recommend. So it's difficult to pick one that I think is important. Well, let me tell you this. I think for business people to connect with their bodies is really important. So I think Adriana Huffington's book Thrive was a brilliant book for an entrepreneur, just to make sure that they don't sacrifice their health for their wealth or their success, because I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think it's a good idea either, because no amount of wealth brings back your health. I always say health is the crown on the head of the well that only the sick can see.
Wow.
In other words, you don't appreciate the gift and the privilege that good health really is until you haven't got it anymore. And by then it might just be too late. So I think that's a great book. I think another great body book that I can definitely recommend if you haven't already read it, Your Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And if you're interested in the somatic experiencing work, Waking the Tiger Within by Peter Levine. And one I've just read, which I think is brilliant, is Gabor Mate's book, The Myth of Normal.
Okay.
So they're definitely not business books. If you want to know a business book that I think was really good, The Answer, and I've forgotten his name who wrote it, but The Answer was very good. And Daniel Priestley's Oversubscribed, I think, are very good.
Mm.
So you asked me for one and I've given you 10. That's
It's
typical of
okay.
me.
But I think
Very enthusiastic.
the reality is a success of an entrepreneur, but frankly, anyone, comes from their own being and from the inside and understanding that and understanding the health. I think I love what you said about no amount of wealth will bring back your health. That is so insanely true. And people often forget it.
They do. And I really think it's so important to remember that if you drop the ball of your finances, if you drop the ball of your business, it will bounce. Honestly, it will bounce. But if you drop the ball of your health, it may just shatter. And if you drop the ball of your relationships, especially with your children, it may just shatter too. So those are the balls you want to treasure the most, I think.
So absolutely true. Speaking of children, I've read somewhere on Facebook your son giving a quote on success. Success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable of. Would this still be something that, because you, mentioned that that was quite close to your heart, the way he saw it, would that still be true?
Definitely. I think that's something I have spoken a lot to my children about because I've thought about it so much. What is my definition of success? And I absolutely think that fulfillment, feeling connected to yourself and connected to your passion, and that you have lived your life the way you believe is important, is the ultimate success. And feeling happy with yourself, and looking back over your life without regret. I think that's a big chunk of success, and knowing that you tried.
Mm.
I think that's the second biggest part. I'm so glad he said that, and I'm so glad you found that quote on Facebook. Thank you for highlighting it. He's a very wise child, my son, and I absolutely think that if you showed up and you gave it your all, that's all anybody can ever ask of you. And you got to accept whatever your best is,
Mm.
and be grateful for it and proud of it too.
Absolutely, but it sounds easy, but it's
Sounds
not.
easy, and it isn't, because I mean, I know I've got an ego like everybody else that wants to compare me with everybody else, and my ego, like everybody else's, can bring me misery, because when you compare yourself and find yourself in the pit and somebody else on the pedestal constantly, where's the joy in that? It can totally destroy your sense of success or your sense of satisfaction. So it's to constantly be vigilant and recognizing that when it's happening, and trying to just let it go, to see it for what it is and just let it go. Yeah, that's a very ongoing job. And I think mindfulness helps a lot with that.
Mm.
But please don't think, after all these years of trying to do that I've started to find it any easier. It's not. My ego can still have a go with me and tell me I'm not good enough, or I haven't tried hard enough, or I should have done better. Yeah, ongoing. But then it's to what you do with it when that's happened. One thing that I found very, very helpful is to remember my ego is just trying to help me.
In
It's
what
trying to
way?
keep me in the world. So I don't need to be kept safe in this moment. So I can let that go. It's not going to keep me alive to know that I'm second best.
Mm. But I
So,
think that is a big problem of a lot of people, and especially, well, we're talking here mostly about entrepreneurs, but that is a massive problem. That you always seem to think everyone's got it together. It looks like it from the outside, but in the end, a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that ego.
Yes, and I think we all have weak spots and blind spots. Every last one of us. And I always say everybody's, if you'll excuse my disgusting phrase, but everybody's poop stink. We're all human. No one's free of that. And your ego can tell you whatever on earth it likes. But the truth is, you aren't there on the inside of their minds, and you aren't there on the inside of their lives. So you don't know how they're battling and what they're battling with. And they may be battling with something that you find super easy, while you're battling with something they find super easy.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say comparing, even though I also struggle with comparing yourself with somebody else is like comparing an apple with a lasagna. Why would you do that? The only thing they have in common is they're both food.
Okay.
For the rest, they have nothing in common, so it just doesn't make any logical sense.
Not at all.
Yet, it's just to keep on being vigilant and noticing it when you're doing it and letting it go.
Mm-hmm. And keep on being happy with yourself.
Keep on, acknowledging yourself. I think, the more we can acknowledge ourselves on the inside, and I don't say I've got this totally down pat, but the more we can appreciate and acknowledge ourselves and give ourselves the accolade and the attention and the appreciation that we long for, the less vulnerable we are, because then we're not trying to get it from the world. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but as a speaker, sometimes you've given your heart and soul. Let me talk about me. I've given my heart and soul on the stage. I've poured myself into the talk I've given, and I come off and nobody even comes to say, well done, thank you, or I like that, or they just go on their merry ways. And my ego goes, you see, you didn't do a good enough job. And so it's something we all suffer with. And then it's to stop yourself in your tracks and say, let that one go. If you feel you showed up and if you feel you did your best, then that's all anybody can ever ask of you. It was enough.
Knowing you made the effort to do the best you're capable of.
Exactly. Yeah. And that can change, by the way. As you get better and evolve, you can do better. But on that day, that was all you could do.
Absolutely. So normally at this point in time, I ask for a summary of what your message would be, but it feels like everything you've said is so inspiring that was almost a summary of your 34 years of working and inspiring people. But yeah, I don't know, is it possible to, going forward, people that are struggling today, a one-liner, two-liners, final message?
I would give a final message. I'd love to. The one thing I would say is take care of you on the inside. It doesn't help to go for a massage or a pedicure or whatever. Well, I mean, do that by all means, but take care of your inside self, your frail self. Take care of that part of you. And the second thing I would say is be there, be aware, and be present. And that is something we bandy around all the time. I mean, it's sort of nauseating how often that gets said, but it really is the essence of it. Get out of your head and into your life and start being present and experiencing the taste of the food you're eating, or the warmth of the water in your morning shower, or those beautiful sheets that you climb into at night when you get into bed. Experience them. Enjoy them. Enjoy the feeling of actually having a belly laugh, because those are the things that make life worth living, and those are the things that bring you the joy that keeps your fire ignited.
Wow. I feel ignited right at this very moment. I cannot wait to go and implement everything that I've learned today. Sue, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate your time. We know you are extremely busy, but thank you so much. Just quickly, where can people find out more about what you do, what you say, and learn more about all your wisdom.
So thank you for asking that. My website is www.suefullagood.com, Fullagood without a hyphen, so it's just one word. And they can read my book, The Sweet Spot, which they can either buy on my website, suefullagood.com, or they can buy it from Amazon. Unfortunately, that's the only place it's available right now. Where else? They can get in touch with me by email if they want to ask me a question or something. My email address is sue@bodybrilliance.co.za. And I'd be happy to engage in any conversation or answer any questions if anybody has any.
This episode was sponsored by Shine Corporate Gifts and Clothing. Contact them for all your year-end gifts, New Year launch material, banners and flags, and almost everything else where your brand needs to be. Visit them at adshine.africa or follow the links in the notes below.